Lagos, Nigeria isn't the easiest city to survive in as a young person, and sometimes we all feel like running away. Come with me as I camp on the beach overnight with some amazing people in Taqua Bay, Lagos. I don't have the right words to describe this experience. Life-changing comes to mind, but I'm confident that you'll be excited and ready to pack your bags to camp on the beach by the time you get to the end of this video. Are you ready for an experience of a lifetime? If you are, let's escape to Taqua Bay together. As you might be aware, Taqua Bay isn't connected to the mainland or anywhere else in Lagos by land, so the only way to get there is either by flying in or going by boat. There are different boat options, from dodgy looking small boats to mini yachts. Our boat was pre-arranged and came with the package, so I do not know the exact cost because it was part of the amount we paid. It was quite funny when we were boarding because someone in our group had last minute jitters and it took a lot of coercion and a bit of roughhousing for them to finally get in, but we all got in and we're ready to go. To say that I needed this trip would be an understatement. The moment we got onto the beach, I just knew that I was at the right place. We got to try archery. It was a fun experience and I've really fallen in love with archery lately. This was my third time trying the activity, and each time I try it I get a bit better. Maybe a bit of consistency will get me to a point where I'm proud of myself, but this was one of the highlights of this trip. Quick disclaimer, the gear they have for archery isn't the most standard. It's quite basic, but it gets the job done. It's great for shooting practice, but if you are used to setting standards when it comes to archery, you might be disappointed. Don't beat yourself up if it's your first time trying. Tent arrangements were made immediately we got to the beach. Meet my sponsor, Odufa. She's the one that paid for my entire experience. She always comes through for me. I got to play a bit of footy with the kids on the beach, and this just reminded me that to some people I am now a big uncle. They kept calling me uncle. Like, who's your uncle? But yeah, it was a decent experience. Seeing everybody having fun on this Sunday evening, leaving behind the realities of life in Lagos. I've had some pretty bad experiences at Nigerian beaches when I went into the water and my skin reacted, so I wasn't really interested in going into the water, but he kept calling me, and after a while I gave in and went into the water. Meet Jeff. He's one of the most creative people I know, no cap, and he organized this trip. He's a great guy, and if you're not familiar with him now, I'm sure you'll be familiar with him when he's shooting and directing the biggest projects. I genuinely hate how Lagos doesn't feel like a true coastal town. You might live in Lagos, you might live on the island and not feel like you live in a coastal town. There's this feeling that comes with coastal towns that just feels very coastal, but Lagos doesn't have that. And after a while, almost everybody in our crew came down to the water and we all got into the fun, displaying childlike, carefree attitudes. For a few minutes, Nigeria wasn't happening to any of us and nothing else mattered. Doesn't get more beautiful than that. Please consider subscribing to the channel and liking this video. Thank you as you do so. Nighttime rolled around. At this point, we were having unnecessary and random conversation. This was about Nigerian musicians, who is overrated, who is underrated, who is the next goat. With arguments like this among Nigerians, facts, the truth, and common sense doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is your agenda. Is your agenda strong enough? If it is, then you're good to go. After a while, I had a meaningful conversation that was unexpectedly deep while enjoying the views of the beach house and the ocean serving as the background noise. So wow, it was time for the bonfire. This is one of the things that I look forward to because I knew we were all going to be gathered around it and having interesting conversation. As expected, this bonfire experience was great, but I was sleepy at this point. Bonfires are always a good idea, especially when done with good people. Everyone is going through something, and many of us have no one to truly listen to us. So this bonfire was an opportunity for many. I ended up going to bed early, and it took me a while to try to get comfortable in my tent. I'm not particularly tall, but I had to align myself in a way whereby my upper body was to one side and my lower body was to the other. The combination of factors made this an interesting and comfortable sleeping experience. Here is a tour of the tent. It's quite basic but more comfortable than I expected. I thought we were going to be sleeping on the ground, but we were all given cushions that were about, I would say, 4 feet-ish long, so most of your body was on it throughout the night. And for my experience, it was very safe, especially if you are going in numbers, and even if you're not, it's still a safe experience. I got a few hours of sleep, and finally morning came. I decided to take a walk with some of the people in the group, and this was to Lighthouse Beach. The waves, fog, sand between my feet, and the general vibe just made this a very peaceful and surreal experience, and I got to get up close and personal with some cactus. I honestly saw this last minute. I was like 2 or maybe 3 feet away from the cactus before I looked at like, yo, could have seriously injured myself and ruined this experience. The conversations while we were going to Lighthouse Beach, we were also eating, we were having some in-depth convos about life as a freshly graduated young person in Lagos, Nigeria. If you're enjoying the video, please consider supporting my work by joining the channel channel as a member, or gifting super thanks or super likes. If that's a bit too much, you can simply subscribe and like the video. However you choose to support, just support. Thank you as you do so. Welcome to Lighthouse Beach. Lighthouse Beach isn't as popular or as well known as Taqua Bay, but it is connected to Taqua Bay, and in recent months or maybe years, it has become more fashionable to go to Lighthouse, especially among young people on the internet. If you go on TikTok or IG, you see lots of vlogs of young Nigerians going to Lighthouse and having the time of their life. Admittedly, it's more secluded and can offer more genuine experiences, because at Lighthouse there aren't lots of vendors right now, so most people have to come to Tarkwa Bay to get food and other stuff, or bring them when they are coming. I definitely look forward to trying what the experience at Lighthouse feels like one day, and then I'll be able to tell you whether one is better than the other or they simply complement each other. But word on the street is that Lighthouse Beach is a bit more expensive than Tarkwa Bay, but as always, there's only one way to find out. When going through life, it's essential to take a step back and enjoy the little things in life. I am glad that I got to witness the beauty of the sunrise at Taqua Bay / Lighthouse. To say that the sunrise here was magical would be an understatement. It felt very romantic, even though I wasn't in a romantic setting. It felt like it would be perfect to spend with the right person. We were about 5 or 6 that kept walking a bit aimlessly through Lighthouse Beach. We passed this absolutely mental ship. I think it is shipwreck, but someone said it's not a shipwreck. Maybe the ship was just beached there by people who were done with it. Who knows? After a while, I sat down and enjoyed the views. We had walked like 1 or 2 kilometers at this point. Everybody just stood around, sat down, enjoying the views and all. After a while longer, we walked back to Taqua Bay, and you see what I mean by the experience having romantic potential. Jeff led us to a secluded spot that had some locals trying to fish on it. At this point, more people from our crew had woken up and they joined us here. If you are familiar with the Eco Atlantic project, you will know that there were lots of stones like this that were essentially used to create the island and maintain its integrity. So there are lots of stone on this side of the water on Tarkwa Bay that people can walk on to access the open waters. In my opinion, if you live in Lagos or you are planning to visit Lagos anytime soon, you should on 100% enjoy this experience at least once. The sunrise remained beautiful here, and the footage kind of looks color graded to me. It looks like some effort was put into it, but all I did was whip out my phone and captured what I was saying. Unfortunately, some people in our group had things to do in the city, so they left and couldn't enjoy this experience to the maximum. But you know what they say about your unemployed friend on a Monday morning, always doing the most random stuff, and here we are. Well, to be honest, not everybody here is unemployed. Most actually have a job. I might be the only unemployed one here. Maybe if these videos do well, I won't have to do random things on Monday morning. Who knows? With that in mind, subscribe, like, get to your friend. Thank you as you do so. It doesn't take much for me to begin reminiscing, and at this point, I looked around at the people I was with. I looked at myself, and then I wondered, when last was I happy? For real, when last was anybody happy in this? If it's not this, then lots of people around me, metaphorically, seem to barely keep things together. But I looked around one more time, and I was glad to be here. If there's one thing I'm all about this year, is prioritizing my mental health and experience. If you give Lagos the opportunity, it will take all you have to give. When last were you happy in Lagos, Nigeria? We returned to the beach house and instinctively separated into little groups, having conversation, playing games, talking about everything and nothing at the same time. If you plan to visit Taqua Bay anytime soon, there are a myriad of different beach houses you can choose from. Same thing with Lighthouse Beach. There are different beach houses you can choose from. The experience here wasn't bad, but I was a bit disappointed with that generator station. Their gen multiple didn't work for most parts, so keep that in mind if you end up choosing to book with these people. Time to go back to reality. I enjoyed my stay here, but MTN network was really bad. I don't know if that's the case with other networks, but MTN network was really bad. I got to rediscover my over dependence on the internet. Meet Vonel, my sponsor or my co-sponsor, alongside Oba. We began our journey back to the mainland around noon, and the experience here gave me a lot to think about. I knew at that point that I was definitely going to visit sometime soon. Our boat back to Victoria Island was pre-arranged, and the driver was already waiting for us at the dock when we got there. There are lots of words I could use to describe my experience here, but I'll just use guilty time. I still cannot believe that my fear of open water stopped me from experiencing joys of this particular beach for so long. I guess it's one of those things where when I go back, I realized that I needed to learn how to swim so that I could do this more with more confidence. The boat ride was scenic and showed a different part of Lagos, a part you don't get to see every day. Ships on the left, expensive Victoria Island buildings on the right. When we got to the dock on Victoria Island, I decided to stay back for a while because my team, Sporting Lagos, had their match rescheduled to that day. Click the video on screen now. I made it specifically for you. Until the next video, your friend from the Okodo YouTube channel wishes you love, peace and prosperity.